Ever find yourself just letting your mind wander and suddenly, bam, inspiration hits?
That aha moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, get this. What if that kind of like unstructured thinking, that dip into chaos, is actually like the key to unlocking true AI? That's kind of what we're diving into today with this research paper. It's called Intelligence at the Edge of Chaos.
It's a super interesting idea. It explores whether AI needs just a little taste of chaos to really thrive. The paper itself is a preprint, so it hasn't gone through like the whole peer review process yet, but it's definitely got people talking.
And it seems like the researchers behind it aren't just trying to make AI a little bit smarter. They're really questioning, like, what makes something intelligent in the first place.
Yeah, they're looking at the fundamental building blocks of intelligence, and they're doing it using these things called elementary cellular automata.
Cellular automata. Okay, now that sounds a little intimidating. Can you break that down for us?
Okay, so imagine like a line of light switches. Each one can be either on or off, right? Now imagine there's a set of rules that decides how those switches flip based on their neighbors. So if this one's on, that one turns off, and so on. That's basically your cellular automaton in a nutshell.
Okay, so I'm picturing all these rows of light switches going crazy, just flipping on and off.
And depending on the rules, you get all these different patterns.
Yeah.
Some rules create like really simple, repetitive patterns, like those old school screensavers.
Uh-huh.
But others, total chaos, like no pattern at all, just kind of random flickering.
So where does this edge of chaos come in? Is it like finding the one light switch that's causing all the problems?
Not quite. The edge of chaos is kind of like this sweet spot between order and randomness. You know, the patterns that emerge, they're complex, they're constantly evolving, but there's still some kind of underlying structure there. And the researchers think this is where things get really interesting for AI.
So how did they actually test this whole edge of chaos idea with AI?
They used large language models, your chat GPTs of the world,
Yeah.
and they trained different LLMs on different types of cellular automata. Some on the simple, predictable ones, others on those totally chaotic systems, and then a group on those right there on the edge of chaos.
So kind of like giving them different schools of thought to learn from.
Exactly.
So did any of the AIs ace the test?
Here's where it gets really cool. The AIs trained on the simple or chaotic systems, they did okay. But the ones trained on those edge of chaos systems, they didn't just learn the patterns, they seemed to develop something more.
Something smarter.
You could say that. They were given completely different tasks, like reasoning tests, you know, the kind that assesses logic and problem solving.
And I'm guessing those edge of chaos AIs blew the others out of the water.
They did. They even outperformed the others when it came to predicting chess moves. It was like learning from those complex systems had unlocked like a deeper level of cognitive ability.
Oh, hold on. So just by looking at these weird patterns, these AIs became better thinkers. That's wild.
And it gets even more interesting when you consider the researchers' theory about why this happens. They think it all comes down to the type of learning environment. Think of it like this. Training an AI on only simple data, it's almost like trying to teach someone to cook, but all you ever let them make is toast.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
They're going to have some gaps in their culinary knowledge, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
And then on the other hand, if you try to train an AI on a completely chaotic system, it's kind of like trying to learn a new language, but all you're listening to is static.
Right.
There's just no structure there for it to actually grasp.
So those edge of chaos systems, those are kind of like the cooking schools of the AI world.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
They offer this perfect balance, right, of structure and surprise. They're complex enough that it's challenging, but there's still like that underlying order that the AI can actually learn from.
So it's not just about, just memorizing information. It's about actually learning how to adapt and make sense of a world that's not always predictable, which kind of sounds a lot like how we learn as humans.
Exactly. Think about how we evolved. Our ancestors didn't survive by just simply reacting to the environment around them. They had to anticipate threats. They had to find patterns, make predictions about everything from like the weather to, the movement of prey.
They had to find order in the chaos just to stay alive.
Exactly. And the researchers think that by exposing AI to those same kind of complex, dynamic systems, we might be able to unlock those higher levels of intelligence.
So instead of just feeding an AI a bunch of data, we have to give it something to really sink its teeth into, something that's really going to make it think critically and adapt, right? But how do we actually do that? I mean, are we talking about building AI simulations of the Serengeti?
Well, it doesn't have to be that literal. There are a ton of complex systems all around us. I mean, the researchers mentioned things like financial markets, weather patterns, even social networks.
You're telling me that my Twitter feed could hold the key to artificial intelligence.
Well, maybe not your Twitter feed specifically,
Okay.
but you get the idea. These are all systems that are constantly evolving. They're full of these unpredictable elements. And so training AI on that kind of data could be incredibly valuable.
So it's not just about the amount of data, it's about the kind of data. That's a pretty big shift in thinking.
It is, and it could have huge implications for how we develop AI going forward.
So what does all this mean for those of us who aren't like, AI researchers? Should we be worried about our robot overlords becoming hyper intelligent from like reading too many tweets?
I don't think we need to panic just yet. This research is still in its early stages. But it does bring up some really fascinating questions about, well, the nature of intelligence itself.
Huh.
If a little bit of chaos is what it takes for AI to really thrive, what does that actually say about us?
That's a great question. Does this mean we should all be embracing a little more chaos in our lives?
It's definitely something to think about. But before you go full-on chaos monkey, remember that this research also suggests that there's this sweet spot.
It's not like we want to completely upend our lives for a little more chaos, right?
Right. Too much chaos is just as bad as not enough. It's about finding that balance, that edge where the creativity and the insight, that's where it can really flourish. This research got me thinking, we've been talking about what this means for AI, but what if we flip the script? What if this whole edge of chaos theory could actually teach us something about ourselves?
Okay, now you've really got my attention. Tell me more.
Okay, so think about some of the most creative people in history. We're talking like the artists, the writers, the entrepreneurs. I mean, they didn't achieve these big breakthroughs by just sticking to the rules, right?
Right.
They questioned things, they experimented, they embraced uncertainty. They were living on that edge.
Yeah, it's like that saying, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Maybe true innovation comes from those messy, uncertain spaces.
Exactly. And it's not even just about creativity. Think about learning. Like, what if, instead of just drilling kids on memorization, we actually, created learning environments that were more open-ended, more exploratory, environments that really encourage them to experiment, to make mistakes, and to actually learn from those mistakes.
So less textbook and more jungle gym for the mind.
Exactly. Give them the space to explore, to find their own paths.
Oh, I love that. And I bet those kids would be way better equipped to just handle, whatever chaos life throws at them later on.
Exactly. Because life, let's be honest, it's full of these unpredictable twists and turns, right?
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, this research is telling us the best way to actually navigate all those twists and turns
Yeah.
is to develop that same kind of flexible, adaptable intelligence that we're trying to build into our AI.
It's like we're all on this journey of learning and adapting, right? Both individually and as like a species. And maybe just like those AIs learning from those complex patterns, there's something to be said for, embracing a little bit of that chaos along the way.
Yeah, this whole edge of chaos idea, it's a really fascinating lens to look at, not just for artificial intelligence, but also for our own human potential.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What amazing things could we achieve if we all learned to thrive in that space, between order and chaos? Definitely something to think about as we go about our days.
Indeed.
Well, on that note, we've kind of reached the edge of our time for today's deep dive. So thanks for joining us on this exploration of AI and the kind of unexpected lessons it might have for us all.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, everyone. And maybe, just maybe, embrace a little bit of that chaos. You never know what you might discover.